Hello, fellow curious creators out there listening in podcast world. This is once again Mike Kepka, the Curious Creative, coming to you with another podcast where we talk about results-driven video strategy that now has become an integral part of today's video production and marketing process. Today, we're lucky to have with us Paul Jew, the driving force behind New Mexico's premier video strategy and agency, Moji Cinema in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Paul, like myself, got his start in the visual world as a still photographer, but left that behind when he found video strategy and the video industry to be way more of a business opportunity. Today, Paul's going to share with us a recent case study that really is the textbook example of how to get a dramatic result for a client using a variety form of video content that he and I have come to know as the ACDC system, awareness, consideration, and decision. I think he's going to explain what that is to us. So here's Paul beaming in from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Paul, thanks for being here. How are you doing?
Great, Mike. Thanks for inviting me to the Curious Creative.
You're listening to The Curious Creative with your host and video expert, Mike Kepka. Tell me about this amazing case study. You told me about the other day, and if I could write the textbook, this seemed like it was it. Tell me where you started, what the client was, and how the first conversation came to be. There's so much I want to get into here.
Sure. So I was familiar with this one father and daughter, and they were opening up a preschool in the middle of one of the most impoverished neighborhoods of Albuquerque. They call it the International District. And one of the things that they wanted to do was they spent several $1 million refurbishing this one old office building in the middle of this neighborhood. And they created a daycare and preschool for the neighborhood. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to provide childcare for parents who had difficulty getting high quality childcare for that particular neighborhood, because many of these parents work night shifts. So they wanted to have good daycare throughout the day. They're open from 6 a.m. to midnight. And they wanted to use it as a catalyst to help transform their neighborhood. So one of the things that they had available after they spent millions of dollars refurbishing this office complex into a daycare center was the state of New Mexico had this government fund where they would reimburse parents as much as $20,000 daycare if a daycare center could successfully attract a parent or a family into their mix. So as they were building this brand new daycare center, they contacted us and said, we need some help to recruit not only parents and children, but also staff as well too. So we put together a video strategy to help not only recruit parents and children, but also workers as well. So one of the things.
Now, did they approach you with the need, or did you said you had a connection ahead of time, right? Or
yeah, I was a friend of this family ahead of time, but we'd never worked for them before.
And it was kind of like, hey, Paul does video. Is that?
Yes, that's exactly how that.
And when they came to you, I bet they had no idea what your plan was. I mean, did they think they were going to get a pretty picture of kids and something that said about a great school, and how did you have to convince them of what you wanted to do?
Yes, basically, they were pretty much like most people. They say, hey, we need some video to promote our new school, but they didn't say anything above that. But then this was at the very beginning of the ACDC methodology, so to speak. So what we did was we put together a plan for them that talked about, you don't really need one video. You're going to need several different videos depending upon where somebody is in the buyer's journey. So we had to go through and explain what the buyer's journey was, why it was necessary to have different types of content for different stages of the buyer's journey. So we explained to them that our strategy would be to create awareness content, consideration stage content, and decision stage content, and also how we could track the number of views and the number of clicks with this strategy. So even though they didn't really know about it, they were very enthusiastic that we were going to be tracking results and going to take this approach to their opening of their new school.
So they have a new school, they have a problem, they approach you and say, we need some video or a video, and then you end up talking them into a whole strategy that is actually data tracking and results. So what as far as content goes, what did you end up doing? How did that start? And tell me how it was or wasn't just one video or some video as they had suggested.
Yes. So what we did was we proposed to them a complete ACDC, which stands for Awareness, Consideration, Decision Stage Content campaign to them. And the awareness stage content we told them would be to talk about some of the common problems and issues that parents in the neighborhood had with finding good daycare, finding some place that's safe, some place that's reliable, some place where they felt good about the curriculum that their children would be exposed to during the day, and also something that would help them for those parents that work night shifts, where they could have someplace trustworthy that they could go to during the evening shift that many parents worked. So those were some of the pain points that we said we were going to do in the awareness stage content. And then for the consideration stage content, we went in depth in terms of creating an origin story for how the director of the school, Rachel, got started in the business, what her philosophy, her values, and how long she had been part of the daycare center. She already had a daycare center at the other side of town. And we also created decision stage content where we got testimonials from some of the parents and children that they had served in the past, singing their praises about how good they were in terms of the type of quality daycare and curriculum that was offered to the kids that had attended their other school. So there was several different videos that were created in terms of the awareness content, consideration stage content, and decision stage content. And
so from pitch meeting, how long, when did you start shooting? And then how much content did you have, say in the first month or 3 months? How much lead time did you have before they needed to get students in seats?
after we had done the proposal, we probably started with creating the content within a week after they had approved the proposal.
So right away, there's no funny business here. It's here's what we're gonna do, and let's get to business, right? And then you're sort of taking the steering wheel, and because you now have a goal that you've got to meet for the sake of your client. It's not like they're managing what the video looks like. What's important is that it works. Is that?
Yes, and the advantage that we had was they have another school. So even though the school that we were doing this for was under construction, they had another school where we could film a lot of the testimonials and a lot of the types of activities that typically are done at their school. Plus, we had the opportunity to film testimonials of the parents that were attending their other school and also staff members, because this was a two-pronged project. They wanted to recruit staff, and they also wanted to recruit parents and children as well, too. So we were able to get started right away creating content, even though the school was under construction, because they had another campus that we were able to begin the process of creating content for them.
Tell me then, because you got started right away, and then as I know it, or as I end up telling a lot of clients and contemporaries about the awareness, is that you're creating something that's sort of really interesting, educational. You're just trying to get people involved in something that they may not have known before. And then really the whole point of that is to take that easy to watch informational content and spread that wide, right? You're sending that out to a really large group. Do you know what platform did that go out on? And do you have any idea how many people you tried to get that in front of, that first set of awareness?
Yeah. So once we got all of our content together, the awareness stage content, we decided to use YouTube because that was the recommended platform for the type of demographic that they were going after. And the great thing about YouTube is we could target specific zip codes in our city. They were really wanting to promote specifically to maybe within a 10-mile radius of their school, So we could target specific zip codes. We could target, demographics of people of parents who are likely to have kids that young. Plus, we also went as old as grandparents' age, because sometimes grandparents are responsible for taking care of their grandkids. So oftentimes they are the decision maker in terms of where to take their grandkids for daycare as well too.
So that first awareness campaign gets in front of what, tens of thousands of people, or is it a bigger sample, or what? And
Yes.
how do you know? And then what do you do with that once you get that in front of them? How do you know what the next? What good is that to anybody? Who cares?
Yeah. So the great thing was that when we put together these different awareness stage ads for them, we were getting great results right from the very beginning. We got a total of 280,000 views of the video of the awareness stage content from the different ads and different videos that we were putting this on. And then we had consideration stage content as well too that we retarget. So of the 280,000 views, we had over 100,000 people who were engaged viewers, people who watched at least.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Like
Yeah,
I usually think that it is you're lucky to have 20% of that, but that's really something. Just
yeah,
40 to 50% there, right? Is that?
yeah. And I think part of it is that these were going to Albuquerque residents. A lot of people have curiosity as to what's happening in our city, and the fact that someplace nice was coming up in the international district, I think was kind of attention grabbing as well too. So I think that also contributed to the high numbers of engaged viewers that we got. So we in turn ran some consideration stage content. Some of the consideration stage content that we ran when the school was constructed and everything was done, we did a virtual tour of the school, and we gave people a bird's eye view in terms of how beautiful the school was. This was a completely remodeled building. It had all new furniture, all new fixtures. It showed, even though it's in one of the poorest neighborhoods of Albuquerque, it had some of the most sophisticated security features of any preschool in the city or state. They have security gates all around. They have fobs where only the parents could get in or the staff could get in. They had security cameras everywhere. They had bulletproof glass. So they had all of these sophisticated security features that we showed off in our virtual tour that we did.
So tell me, the targeting in YouTube allowed you to go to specific zip codes, and those zip codes, I'm guessing, are likely to be parents with young children or potentially grandparents with a connection to young children, and they're already sort of invested. So that might explain why we have such a high engagement thing there. Super exciting. But how do you define engagement? Were they watching it all the way through, or 15 seconds through, or what did you count as an engagement?
So all of our awareness content was about a minute long. And we defined an engaged view as anybody who had watched at least 50% of that awareness stage content. So that's how we built that audience. Was we told YouTube, identify all the people who have watched at least 50% of one of these awareness videos. And in turn, it created an audience of engaged viewers. So that gave us an audience of people that we could retarget with a consideration stage ad and consideration stage content, of which, some of it was the virtual tour, some of it was testimonials, some of it was, for instance, the curriculum that they offer. Some of it was the food service. We did a little profile, a little video about the chef and his philosophy of healthy food, and how important it is for a young child growing up to have healthy food.
Now, the facilitators of the school, did they just say go for it? Clearly they gave you access and said, did you run these ideas by them? I don't know that your average administrator or facilitator would say, yes, I think we should look at the chef. I mean, you must have consulted and say, I think we should try all these different things, right? Is that how that came to be? I mean, it sounds brilliant to me.
I would say that it was a collaborative process. We asked questions about what are some of the things that make your school unique. what are some of the things that, and then we go, yeah, that would make really great content because we really need to showcase that. And then also we had a little separate campaign for recruiting staff. So we did staff testimonial videos as well too, and why the staff felt that this was a great place for to work in terms of how supportive of a culture it was, how rewarding it was to work at this particular daycare center. And so we actually had two campaigns going on, one to recruit staff and one to recruit children.
Can you tell me a little bit about the promoting these pieces or the ad spend? I think you said that you put that in the hands, or the budget in the hands of the school, right? Is that right?
Correct.
But how did you guys come up with the rollout for that? Like, did you have a dollar that you're going to start with, and then did you ramp that up? Or, sometimes I feel like that's the part where it makes sense to me that if you spend $3 on an ad and you can get a return, why wouldn't you just start putting more money at it? But I think when you start multiplying those dollars, that gets a little scary for the client. So tell me where that started and where it ended up, and then maybe tell me how that paid off at the end of the day.
They said that they were comfortable spending, as a start, $500 a month.
Okay. So not that much. I mean, that's
not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But what ended up happening was we were getting great results for that $500 ad spend. We were getting enormous views, enormous engaged views for that type of budget. And, I would estimate that during the 6 months that they ran the campaign, they kept it at $500 a month. They didn't spend any more than total of about $3,000 in ad spend, yet we delivered over 280,000 views.
So the whole campaign, they really only spent like $3,000 for the whole thing. That's
in terms
really
of ad
amazing.
spend.
I think you know what that must be, Paul, that your content was really spot on. Clearly, I mean, you talked about the strategy behind it. I think that's just what's really exciting about this. Tell me why Moji Cinema was the right team to do this. I like to say that we do high-end content with smart video strategy that shows results. How do you, I know that you're a long-term resident of Albuquerque. How does that relate to knowing your clients and relating to the pain point and creating content that I guess would convey that to the audience?
Yeah, I think your philosophy and mine are the same. What you just described is pretty much what we believe in. I've been a business owner for many years. I was in the photo business, and I was a consumer of advertising. And what was really aggravating for me as a business owner was having no idea what was working or what was not working. And, when all of this methodology came out with being able to track results and get real data about how an ad is performing, I was so on board with that because as a former consumer of advertising, it was so frustrating to me to spend money on ads but not know what was working, what wasn't working. So this gave us a methodology and a process for us to be able to track results and know if we were getting results for our client or not. And I think that most video production companies, at least in our area, they really don't do this approach. They do a good job of creating videos, but they have no clue how to go about this process of setting up Google Analytics, setting up Google Tag Manager, setting up UTM links, setting up reports, how to track data, how to measure results, how to interpret all of these things, and then being able to modify your content and your strategy depending upon what the data is telling you.
So these are all things that you're doing back end, and the client doesn't really have to worry about it, and then you're letting them know how that's going. Do you have is it a weekly report or a monthly, quarterly report? How does that work, and what are you showing them at that point?
Yeah, we had monthly meetings with our client where we were showing them the data as it was coming out. So we had reports that we were showing them. Typically, it was a Zoom meeting. We would share the data with them. They were very encouraged when they saw how many views they were getting. They were very encouraged. One of the things, probably the most important thing is we got over 14,000 people to click onto their landing page, which was a registration page, or for applying to the school.
So that's their call to action. Did
Correct.
they build a specific landing page for this, or did you add a little call to action on their existing page, or what was the task there immediately?
Yeah, they had their own web developer, but we gave them input in terms of the things that they needed to put on their landing page. One of it on their landing page was their origin story that we created for them. So that was part of that, and then also the virtual tour. And then the other thing that was an important part of the landing page was the a link to the state of New Mexico website where they could apply for the funds to reimburse them for childcare. That was all part of the landing page.
So I'm actually in discussion right now with a couple of different potential clients, and they both have told me that they have an in-house web developer and weren't sure how much we could change. But how did you have that discussion with them, and how did you say, well, we really need to get this or this up there, and what was the reason and what was their response?
Yeah, so basically, we got their cooperation because we said, if the goal is to get you more registrations, or the goal is to get you more applications for employment, you need to have these different assets on your landing pages in order to make sure that you're going to get the results. And so, thankfully, we had a cooperative client, and they were able to light the fire under their web developer to do the right thing and put in the different things that needed to be put into their landing page. So, sometimes it took a little while. Sometimes it took a little arm twisting. But one of the things is we're persistent. I don't want this to fail. It's
Your
not
name on
just
there. If it fails, it's your name, right?
exactly
I mean, that's how I
exactly
feel. Like I do so much extra work because I want to make sure that people know we are who we are, and our value is our name. That's it. So,
right.
all right, Paul, this is your moment. I want to know numbers. Give me the simple breakdown. I know that you said the state gets something like $20,000 per year per kid. How many spots were there? What was loosely, you can speak in loose terms on budget, and then what do you think their return is? And then give me an amazing magical number at the end of the day that was probably brought in revenue, or I don't know if you can call it net profits, but revenue that we can specifically attribute to the strategy and campaign that you did for the school.
Yeah. Well, the great thing was within a year of them opening up the school, they have now over 100 kids they're taking care of, and they were able to attract 25 staff members as well too. So that the total campaign for what they spent with us was about $40,000 is what they spent with us to create content and to help do the maintenance of the sales funnel. And so they spent about $40,000 with us. They've brought in over 100 kids. They're getting over $2 million a year in revenue from that. If their ad spend was no more than $3,000 while we were running that campaign. So, basically the return on video investment for them is, at least in 1 year, was like 40x.
They basically spent $43,000 and turned that into $2 million annually. Did they know they were in for 40 grand at the start, or was that sort of a slow trickle? I know this wasn't a retainer, right? And you're as of now not working on the next campaign. I'm hoping that you will after the show, but was that part of a challenge, or did they have a marketing budget just set aside and this sort of met what their standard or expectation
This was a retainer right from the very beginning.
Okay.
So they were. We had a 6-month contract with them. The great thing is that they're kind of what they're able to serve right now. So they don't need any more like us to be doing any more content and more bringing in more clients for them. But they have assured me that they're going to work with us again when they add more staff or they need to grow a little bit more. So
now, have they stopped their campaign to date, or are they still running some of that content that you had?
They've stopped the campaign because right now they have as many kids as they can take care of right now.
But also, it's on their, I assume that you started a YouTube channel for them or tapped into their existing channel. And so now they have this sort of archive, and it is sort of a blueprint or a map of who they are as a, so if somebody else wants to organically come, now they can see who they are, right? That before you started, they didn't have anything but a name in front of their new building, right?
Right. They had some old videos that were pretty poorly done
Mm-hmm.
on their YouTube channel. So yeah, we basically upgraded all of their video content for them.
Right.
And
Amazing, amazing, Paul. This is really good. Tell me about Moji Cinema. Tell me, I know you started as a still photographer. So did I. I was a journalist. I think you did kind of a different thing, and what you liked about that, and how video work is different, and why you're doing that now instead of still photography.
yeah, so I was in the professional photo business for many years, and primarily was doing school photography contracts, yearbook contracts for high schools and elementary schools and things of that nature. But about 12 years ago, I was attending a photo marketing convention in Las Vegas, Nevada, and there was this company out of Portland, Oregon called Muse, and they put on this workshop called Micro Budget Filmmaking, and they were talking about how many photographers were discovering the HD video feature on their digital cameras.
Was this like the 5D Mark II? That's kind of how I got my start into
Exactly,
video, the
exactly.
cinematic style video, ladies and gentlemen, which means I think we can adjust our apertures so we can get a focus fall off, or the bokeh, I think, as the still photographer world likes to talk about it, right?
Right. So anyway, they were doing this workshop, and they showed us this wedding video that they produced.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself tearing up watching two complete strangers getting married with this beautiful wedding video that they produced. And they told us afterwards, it's not enough to take pretty images. You need to be able to tell a story that's going to resonate with your audience. And I was so intrigued with what they were doing. I sent one of my photographers to Portland to apprentice under them for a few months. And when he came back, we started a video division for our company, and we started just trying to cold call different businesses and asking to tell their story for them. So that's how we got started in the video business. And then in 2018, I closed my photo studio down to focus on storytelling and video production full time. So that's how I got involved in video production. And then, of course, one thing has led to another. I found out about Tim Jarvis through basically his ad campaign. He had this great sales
Right.
funnel.
Ironic, isn't it? Now we've gotten some information about his funnel, and now we're like rearranging it to work to our needs, right?
Correct.
I hadn't actually thought about that in a while, but what you said about still photography versus video, I've told people in the past that I felt like video was the progression from my storytelling career, because it allows you to add more layers. You have sound, you've got movement, so you can, in some ways it can actually be simpler, because you can add some different elements into an image and kind of get a bigger story. Whereas a still image, I felt like I used to wait around for hours for like that perfect moment to happen. And this is in journalism, in the documentary world, but
Sure.
that perfect moment to happen where hands, feet, and face and expression all came to the same place. And with video, we can do these sequences and bring in different elements and kind of tell this bigger picture story, right? And every audience member out there, as we certainly know, is an expert watcher. We get so much content, so there's no fooling anybody with lowbrow content these days. Super interesting, Paul. This has been really great. I want to run over these numbers again just to see if I can get it. You had a 6-month retainer with a brand new school in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was in a up-and-coming neighborhood, I think is a polite way to say it, but some people were maybe scared to go to it, right? And so that was definitely a pain point. You came to them, pitched them on a production concept and a strategy based on awareness, decision, consideration. They had never done this before. You hit it home. You ended up getting their KPI. A single conversion for them, technically speaking, would be $20,000. So they had 100 students at the end of the campaign, or at the first year of school, they were full. $2 million annually, and that's keeps going. So bravo, Paul. That's just really great. I want to thank you for being on the show today. I always ask my guests to leave us with something great. What do you have for us? I hear some data or some stats. Or did I just blow the stats for you?
No. I think, I think that the great thing about this entire approach is that we can actually prove ROI to our clients, and we're sitting on something that is so valuable because there has been so little accountability in the advertising and marketing industry for years. So it's just nice to be able to be part of something where we can say, we're going to come alongside you, and we're going to actually, it's going to be actually a good investment when you work with us, and we're going to be able to prove it to you.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure the big agencies don't love what's going on. I mean, we all have to sort of scramble and get on with the evolution of media and ad spend and marketing. But I think gone are the days of these behemoths, and they are charging literally millions of dollars to people who have always expected a bill that is millions of dollars. And now things are tighter. People expect more for less. And I think justifying our existence with some hard data says, there's your meal ticket. I think you're spot on, Paul. I think this is really great. Paul Jew, Curious Creatives out there, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks again for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, LinkedIn. I'm trying to get some engagement there. And of course, YouTube. This seems to be Paul's ticket of choice every once in a while. Happy listening, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.